Hello fun people, I'm Isaac Carlson, and we need to discuss the depressing backstory of Captain Gantu. We need to pull back the layers of the alien who at first seemed so hardened and tactical, but was revealed to be a sad, sensitive, and burdened man. How did a high-ranking officer of the Galactic Armada become a loyal henchman of one of the most nefarious villains across the universe, Dr. Jacques von Hämsterviel? Well, that happened because Gantu was a broken person. You see, Gantu stated in the first episode of Lilo and Stitch the series that he came from the 8th planet of the Kepler system, and through his conversations with his pal 625, who would eventually be named Ruben, he shared that his childhood was filled with heartache. Honestly, this whole video was born out of me beginning to do research on Ruben, but once I started to see how complex and tragic Gantu's life had been, I knew I wanted to explore it in its entirety before I broke down the life of 625. You see, Gantu's father specifically instilled in him a need to not trust anyone and pressured him to believe that everyone would abandon him because he would always be a failure.
Run away from the boring failure! Run far away. Daddy always said they would.
Gantu's father ensured that he would grow up respecting authority and following his orders, which led to Gantu internalizing his father's hatred of others and himself. And the more Gantu despised who he was, the more alone he became.
My father was very authoritarian, so I didn't have many friends. No friends, actually.
At the age of 12, Gantu remembers distinctly being excluded from his peers' parties, and the following year he was burdened with braces. Even the girlfriend he had throughout school named Cinta remembered how he never had taste and was always unfashionable. He was a total social reject, but nevertheless he did find his way into sports and graduated well enough to be able to join the Galactic Armada. Unfortunately though, that decision to become a protector of the Federation did come with a heavy price.
Perhaps if I had married her instead of joining the Galactic Armada, my life would have turned out better, but my foolish pride wouldn't allow it.
Most likely with the desire to earn the respect of his father, Gantu attempted to show his superior leadership, competency, and strength by rise and become captain of the Galactic Armada, so he set aside his dreams of love. Through Gantu's interaction with Mr. Stenchy, it's clear he appreciated the warmth and kindness the little experiment had, and he wants to take care of someone beyond himself. But for the longest time, he refused to pursue it so he could continue to follow orders of the influential people around him. Gantu grew up serving his father, and he began his adult life by carrying out the commands of the Grand Councilwoman.
Captain Gantu, take him away.
With pleasure.
But of course, one experiment completely derailed Gantu's career. Stitch escaped to Earth from the starship Gantu was captaining, and even when he was given the opportunity to redeem himself, he not only failed to apprehend Stitch again, but his aggressive and impulsive actions endangered the lives of numerous innocent people, including Lilo. The hatred he held for Stitch only grew as he realized that the little abomination and his tiny human friend were able to humiliate him, which of course led to Gantu being forced into an early retirement. All of the prestige and power he had sacrificed for was gone, and that left Gantu wandering the cosmos searching for a new master to serve. Enter the alien who funded the creation of 626, Dr. Hämsterviel. Now, with all of this context around Gantu's life, I don't think he decided to align himself with the despicable Jacques von Hämsterviel because he suddenly turned evil and wanted to rule the universe. I believe he became a mercenary because he wanted revenge against 626 for playing a part in dismantling his career. He was desperate to find a place where he belonged again since he struggled socially throughout his childhood. And most importantly, I think during that extremely vulnerable period of Gantu's life, he returned subconsciously to the familiar toxic reality he grew up in. Gantu once again submitted to an abusive figure who would dictate his life. And sure enough, once he became Hämsterviel's henchman and started collecting experiments, he was constantly berated, mocked, threatened, and ridiculed.
You did not bring me an experiment soon. I will abuse you physically as well as verbally.
Understood, sir.
But deep down, Gantu was only hostile to Lilo and Stitch because of the painful experiences in his past, and he hated that he allowed himself to be controlled by it. When the experiment Amnesia erased all of his memories, including all of the traumatic ones, he instantly became kind, compassionate, and responsible. He even took on the persona of a police officer and did everything he could to assist Lilo. But when he found out that if his memories returned, he would be thrusted back into a life of darkness, he struggled to see how he could have allowed his life to progress in such a different direction than the life he wanted.
Who am I? I'm lost.
Gantu desperately wished he could have a fresh start and a second chance.
Stop, please! Let him go! I don't want my old life of evil back!
Even after he received his memories again and became a servant of Hämsterviel once more, he held onto the ceramic statue Lilo had given him to remind himself of who he once was and who he wanted to become. And later on, when Lilo attempted to convince Gantu he was delusional after he hit his head, he fully embraced the Uncle Chester persona she placed onto him, since he was hoping that his life had actually been a horrible fiction. Gantu longed to escape his life because he saw no purpose in his own.
I was really hoping I was Uncle Chester. His life had some modicum of meaning.
Of course, there were times where Gantu completely rejected Hämsterviel's commands when he felt empowered or he felt compelled to break free from his boss's grip. Like when Gantu won the lottery because of the experiment named Shoes, he immediately got rid of Hämsterviel from his life.
Hämsterviel, you stink and I quit.
Or when Gantu attempted to become the king of Earth with the use of the experiment named Checkers, he completely shut Hämsterviel off. But when his plot was undone, Hämsterviel welcomed Gantu back to be his servant by forcing him to perform humiliating and degrading tasks. Every time Gantu failed to escape Hämsterviel, it seemed even less likely he would ever be free. Each time he tried to gain courage within himself, his confidence and self-esteem would be degraded again. With Gantu's life seemingly crumbling around him, he just couldn't see what he was even working towards, and he feared there would never be a time that he would be able to escape.
I've had power before. It left me empty.
Gantu didn't know what would make him happy, which is why when he's given the ability to wish for anything, he squanders the opportunity as he wishes for all of the luxuries he could imagine and the ex-girlfriend he had romanticized in his head.
All the riches in the world and you still feel empty?
I remembered that Gantu struggled throughout Lilo and Stitch the series, but once I started to see it all together, it was just heartbreaking to see this literal giant alien be constantly burdened with so much pain. In little doses, it was hilarious, but lined up, it was tragic and fascinating because the truth was that Gantu despised his own existence.
I hate my life.
Now, of course, while Gantu was going through all these painful trials, tasks, and emotions, he did have a little sidekick to keep him company. After 625 was rehydrated and Gantu became trapped on Earth, the duo became quite the little team.
Looks like you and I are working together, huh? Sandwich?
They weren't the most productive, they weren't the nicest to one another, and they definitely didn't seem like they would have ever chosen to be roommates, but through their time together, they did become friends. 625 was willing to hear Gantu's problems. He became invested in their bond, which is seen through him being jealous when Gantu prioritized his friendship with other experiments, and they were unafraid to joke with one another. Through all the egg salad sandwiches they shared together, there was a mutual respect that was built up. So when the day came where Gantu was fired by Hämsterviel when an army of Leroys had been built, it was Ruben who helped guide him down a new path.
Years of devotion and hard work, and this is how I'm rewarded?
You are right, big guy. That gerbil treats you like a pile of blitznack.
With a true friend by his side, Gantu saw that being fired was his opportunity to escape the abuse he had been suffering. This was his chance to start a new life where he would refuse to go against his own morals in the search of power, riches, and respect. It was time to ignore the people who had held him back and to rise to be the greatest version of himself. So he decided he would help Lilo and Stitch bring an end to Dr. Hämsterviel's reign as a threat to the Galactic Federation.
He's on the Aloha team now.
You never did understand the meaning of aloha, did you?
Sure, Gantu might have served Hämsterviel in the fight for Jumpa's experiments, but when there was a true intergalactic threat, he played his part to save the day, transforming himself into a hero. With his legacy restored, the Grand Councilwoman offered him the ability to return as captain of the Galactic Armada, but he refused to accept until he knew his true friend would continue to be by his side. Captain Gantu may have seemed like just a violent, corruptible big dummy, but the truth was that he was an alien who had been tortured, isolated, and demoralized his entire life, who just wanted to prove to himself that he was capable of being a good person and finding a friend.
I'd like to request experiment 625, Ruben, as my galley officer.
No kidding?
I've grown rather fond of your egg salad.
Fun people, I just wanted to say that I am incredibly thankful to all of you for supporting me throughout my YouTube channel's first 10 years. A decade ago in June, I created my channel, and all of you have changed my life for the better. Because you watched my Disney videos, I've gotten the opportunity to make over 700 of them. You allow me to be a YouTuber every day, and you've helped me live out my dreams, including the reality that I can live near Walt Disney World. I mean, the fact that I can spend a few days making a huge video about Gantu, a side character in Lilo and Stitch, whose best friend is a sandwich-loving experiment, is absolutely insane and amazing. And if you'd like to see all of the new in-depth Disney discussion videos I make, consider subscribing so we can reach 1 million subscribers before the next decade of this channel swings around. And if you would like to directly support me, consider earning your ears as a channel member and becoming a producer on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers to another 10 years, and have a magical day.